Oh, hello there. This hour of Learning, the next in my Business Basics series, the class where you learn communication strategies, key phrases, and the vocabulary you need. In other words, you learn how to be fluent in different business situations. You don't have to be only a business person to be in the class. We're going to deal with professional situations that everyone has to encounter. We've been working on career plans. So we learned about an unusual career in the first class. In the last class, last Wednesday, we looked specifically at important words we can use to describe different kinds of jobs and careers. We're going to take that a step further by creating a career plan or learning the language of talking about career planning and career development. So that's a little bit about the class. Here's a little bit about me. I'm John Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour. I'm an American teacher from New York, coming at you today from Lisbon, Portugal, to bring you this class. By the way, if you click on my name anywhere in the Verbally website, it'll take you to this page, my profile page, where you can follow me on the left. That will allow you can get in touch with me that way, directly in the message window. You can also receive notifications of my upcoming classes, and on the right, you can book a private tutoring session or buy a package, and I will work with you on a personalized learning plan to help get you to your goals. If you're interested, just send a message so I can be sure that I have time for you in my schedule. Here's the material that we've been using, not the last class, but the class before. I'll give you a link to this because it's going to be really difficult to read off of the screen, as you'll see. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the second part of the text here, where our astronaut talks about his career advice. I think he's got some unusual advice, so even if you haven't read it, no problem. If you have, we'll focus more on discussion, but if you haven't, we'll read or skim through this and try to understand why his advice is what I would call maybe counterintuitive. We'll then take a look at his career plan. I'll look at some language we can use to talk about career planning and the development of a career, and that will give you some tools to talk about your own career plan. So all of that and more coming up. Let me just say hello and make sure everyone's microphone is working. So who do we have here? We've got Mr. Giancarlo from last hour. Welcome back, Giancarlo. How are you?
Thank you, John. Fine. Thank you. Good morning.
Ms. Anna, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. Great. Thanks.
Mr. Frederick, welcome back. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine.
Okay, very good. So here's the plan. If you start on, first of all, have all three of you already read this text from a week ago in between classes? Because we didn't read it in class, we just skimmed it. Have any of you read this yourselves? If not, let's read it together, just the last part. Have any of you read this already?
Yes, I have.
That's one. This one? From this presentation. Anna, no?
Well, don't mind me. I could read it while we're doing it. So.
No, it's short. It's short. The part that we're going to read is quite short. Okay, let's do it together. It's just a few paragraphs. We're going to start at 9. Now, the only thing is, it's going to be really hard to see on screen, and I don't really have a solution. I can share with you my PDF if you can't see it. So you tell me how you want to read, or you can open this in your own computer by clicking on the link, because I know it's very difficult to see this inside of the Hangout. Okay? So I want to read through a little bit about Chris Hadfield's career and look at his counterintuitive career planning advice. Giancarlo, do you remember from the other class last week? Do you remember who Chris Hadfield is?
No, I don't. I don't remember.
Okay, no problem. We've got Frederick here who can fill us in. Frederick, who is Chris Hadfield?
Chris Hadfield is a Canadian astronaut.
Not a Canadian, the Canadian astronaut.
Okay. The most famous Canadian astronaut.
The most famous, the
Yeah.
bestest, mostest of all the Canadian astronauts. Actually, I think, are there any other Canadian astronauts? Isn't he the only one?
I don't know. Yes, maybe he's the only one.
Because there was no Canadian space program,
No.
right? So he wanted to be an astronaut since he was a kid. So he got into a career that ironically allowed him to become an astronaut, even though there was no space program. But he managed to do it anyway, which is kind of amazing. He had to go to Russia to do it, but he actually lived out his life dream. Let me ask you, three of you. That sounds like a miracle of career planning to me. How do you think, if you don't have a space program and you want to be an astronaut, what kind of career planning, even without reading the article, what kind of career planning do you think he had to do to get himself into that position? I'm just curious. Giancarlo, I don't know, is there a space program in Mexico? I don't think so. Is there? Are there Mexican astronauts?
Yeah, there is one.
There is. Ah.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. In fact, I'm not sure if there is a program here in Mexico talking about astronauts.
So I'm just curious. We don't have to talk only about astronauts, but since we're going to read about this guy's career plan, I'm just curious. If you wanted to be an astronaut, Giancarlo, what would you do as a Mexican to become an astronaut if there's no space program? I mean, to me, it's pretty amazing that he was able to get himself into that position. What do you think you could do to get yourself in that position?
Well, maybe I would need to investigate the best places to be an astronaut and to study to be an astronaut and to be ready, to be prepared in order to be an astronaut. I would visit different countries, or I would investigate what the best country is. In order
Investigate
to
or
study.
research?
Well, I'm not sure, John. Can you help me, please? Because, for
Research.
example, research. For
'Cause
example, if I want to know more about different schools and institutions, I do a research or I investigate about the schools.
Neither. You don't do a research. You research as a verb. You research. And if you want to say, because investigation is for a crime, basically.
Okay.
We investigate a crime, but we research information. Okay? So I would say, yeah, I would research what were the best places to study and what countries I could go to. Yeah. You could also research is a good idea. By the way, a more informally, you could use a phrasal verb. I would look into, even better, I would look into the best programs. I would look into the best programs and the best places to go. Okay, so look into is a good synonym for research. Investigate sounds like you're a detective trying to figure out who done it.
I'm sorry. And what about to find out? Could it
Find out. To find
be-
out something. That's the problem. You have to find something out.
to find out which country has it? This kind of.
It's okay, yeah. To find out. Find out means discover. And look into is research. But it works. I want to find out which countries. But that means, when you say find out, you're going to reach a clear conclusion. When you look into, you may or may not reach a conclusion. So the words are not exactly the same. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
So you expect to get an answer when you find something out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't expect to get an answer when you look into something. You may only get more questions. Anna, what's the obvious thing that most people would have to do in the world if they wanted to be an astronaut? What's the obvious thing? It's not just what countries to go to and what to study, although we can talk about what to study.
Well, I think
what's the biggest hurdle going to be? Because most people are not born in the States. So what are you going to have to do as part of
Well,
your...
you mean, well, there are two things. I think, well, if we are talking about the United States, that you have to get a visa, and if you want to be an astronaut, you have to go to be in good health, so you have to go for a checkup to a doctor.
Okay, yeah, those are both true. But the visa will take care of itself if you're qualified.
And of course, first of all, you have to master a foreign language.
Exactly. I wasn't talking about going to NASA. You could go to Russia and be in the space program. You could be a cosmonaut, but then you have to learn Russian. So you have two choices: learn Russian or learn English, or both.
Learn English.
But Chris Hadfield learned Russian to work at the space center in, I don't know, Kazakhstan or someplace. I'm not sure where he was located exactly. He learned Russian. He already spoke English. He learned Russian to be the, maybe Frederick, you remember what his position was. Wasn't he the director of the center or something like that? Do you remember?
He was a commander of the ISS.
Later he was, right.
Yeah.
And there he spoke English, but his Russian helped too, right? Because it's international. But earlier he was the director of a space center.
Yes, director of the operation.
Uh-huh. So
Yeah.
he had to learn Russian because of where he was located. So, yeah, that's what I meant. You've got to master a foreign language. It's got to be part of your career plan. Frederick, how would you get yourself into orbit? I mean, you're European, so Europe does have a space program. There's the European Space Agency.
Mhm.
But imagine you were born in, I don't know, what's a French-speaking place? Algeria. Algeria does not have a space program.
No.
What could you do, thinking ahead? It's not very easy to do when you're young, but if you were thinking ahead and really planning, what would you do as a stepping stone to get yourself into this position? I want us all to try to think about steps in a process. End result, I want to be in orbit. What would get you there? What do you think the first 2-3 steps would be?
As we just said, the first step is to learn a foreign language.
Okay.
And then I think you have to work hard and at school to work hard to study hard, you know.
So
you have
work
to
on your
master.
language skills, get good grades, and what would you study? What kind? I mean, what
You
I'm
have to-
getting at is this: what career could you get that would pay off with what you really want later?
You have to master physics and math,
There you go.
and I think you have to get knowledge about maybe almost everything, you know, not master everything, but to have knowledge of about everything, because in the ISS there are scientists, but there are a lot of I don't know how to say that. A lot of different kind of sorry, I don't know how to say that.
Well, give us an example. You don't have to know the right word.
Okay, there are physicians, but there are the men who people who works in chemistry.
Chemists?
Chemists,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and you have to
So different kinds of science people, in other words.
yeah,
Different
well,
sciences.
exactly, yeah.
Okay. So, what kind of career could you have as a preliminary? Look at these words in the chat window: stepping stones, Preliminary. What kind of career could you have as a preliminary to getting to your goal? Well, if it's math skills, you could become an engineer, right? Maybe that could get you where you wanted to go. But you've got another problem. Someone's got to fly the ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what could you be?
A pilot.
Yeah, specifically a test pilot.
Yeah.
Those people that have to maneuver airplanes at high speeds are test pilots. So it will show whether you've got the physical capability of handling something in a stressful situation, high velocity. A lot of those NASA people were test pilots in the Air Force or in the Navy, and then they went ahead and did a master's or a doctorate or both, or a second doctorate to get their math, science, physics, or whatever. The people that went to the moon, as far as I know, I could be wrong, I know at least one of them, but I think all of them had PhDs that they did related to working as test pilots, related to the physics of the plane and stuff like that. So you had a bunch of really smart, really qualified people who were incredible athletes, incredibly agile, right, with the plane, and just physically agile, good health. And that's what this guy did. I think it's kind of amazing that he was able to think so far ahead and plan his steps. He just put himself in the right position. So that's all I'm getting across to you. It's interesting. And if you can think about it like that, it'll help you in life. It'll also help you with your English, because we can start to use words like preliminary, stepping stone, intermediate steps, intermediate, right? Things you do to get you where you want to go, but they're not the end result. Intermediate. Okay, so these are some, let me put that word in the chat window for you. These are some ideas to start talking about a career path in a big global perspective, looking down on the whole thing rather than looking up from where you are. Okay, so let's take a look at a few paragraphs at the very end, and let's find out what his counterintuitive advice is. Anna, do you think you could take paragraph number 9 for us?
I would love to. You mean like 9? An astronaut guide to life on Earth is a combination memoir and self-help guide. Certainly, there are lots of life experiences to provide material, and Hatfield is a great storyteller.
By the way, I should say this is the book that he published when he retired, Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, just so you know, okay?
Okay. But it is the unconventional way he gives advice that makes the book special. It's puzzling to me that so many self-help gurus urge people to visualize victory and stop there. Some even insist that if you wish for good things long enough and hard enough, you'll get them. And conversely, that if you focus on the negative, you actually invite bad things to happen. He writes, like most astronauts, I'm pretty sure I can deal with what life throws at me because I've thought about what to do if things go wrong as well as right. That's the power of negative thinking.
So does that make sense? That's the power of negative thinking.
Yeah, but it doesn't explain why he was opposed to the concept of if you visualize things, they'll come to you.
Why he is opposed to it, but let's see if we can figure it out. First,
That's interesting.
well, first let's clarify the power of negative thinking. Frederic, in your own words, what do you think Hatfield means by the power of negative thinking? Let's start with the definition. I think this is really, really good advice personally. We should clarify what it really means. What do you think he means?
I think it's not actually negative thinking. It's for me it's a negative anticipation. You know.
Mm-hmm.
You think about the things that may go wrong or go bad during I don't know, a flight and you think about what he have to do if these things are going to happen.
Mm-hmm. It's the future, so what he'll have to do.
What he'll have to do, yes.
What he'll have to do. I'm going to give you a vocabulary word for that. We're going to call it contingency. Contingency planning, in fact. Contingency. So you're saying negative thinking is not negative. It's contingency thinking.
Yes, and it's not thinking. It's because negative thinking, it's like, you know, you're every time thinking negative. Mm-hmm. It's not the thing he wants to do. He wants to say. What he's saying is, if you want to resolve, or if you want to resolve the problem you are going to face, it's better if you think about this problem before they are going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Even better than think about is you need to think through the problem. Think through. Think through. That means think about the consequences, results, or side effects. To think through. You follow me for think through?
Yeah, okay.
So that's the right word. He's telling us to think through. So, Anna, I think based on what Frederic said, it's a lot easier to see why he is sort of against the idea of positive thinking. Now, I know there's a term here, negative, positive, and he's not really being negative and he's not really being positive. But these are
He's being practical, right?
He's being practical, but also these terms are used a lot, like to sell books, to sell self-help books. So that's why he's saying negative thinking, because he wants to counteract, I think, my theory. He wants to counteract the self-help market that's out there that tells you to visualize what you like and you'll get it. What do you think he's saying is the danger of positive thinking, positive visualizing? What do you think he's trying to get us to avoid? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. Well, I'm thinking that he's trying to
Let me put it this way. What could be the danger of thinking only about what you want, not about what you don't want? What could be the danger there?
That you won't be prepared when the things go wrong.
When everything goes wrong, you won't be ready. It's exactly his It's exactly his point.
Like failing to prepare, you're prepared to fail, right?
Yeah. And this is a guy who was out in space, outside of the spaceship. So this is a human being in the middle of outer space who had an accident and went blind. So he couldn't find his way back to the spaceship. And today he's back on Earth and he can see.
So he wrote. I figured he wrote this book after that happened.
Yes. Yeah. He wrote it when he retired, which wasn't long ago. He retired relatively recently, but yeah. So the point is, things could go wrong because he had planned for it. He thought through. They thought through meticulously. Because think about it. You have to bring your oxygen with you. You have to bring your food with you. You have to bring your bathroom with you. There's nothing out there. You have to bring everything with you. So you need to think through every possible thing that can go wrong. You don't have the atmosphere to protect you. There's a solar flare. You're all going to get fried, right? You have to think about that too. I mean, everything. So what he calls the power of negative thinking, personally, I think he's trying to give us an antidote, I meant to say, for the self-help industry. He's trying to say that the self-help industry, I think, and the career planning industry, all those books you can buy, the 48 Laws of Power, all of those self-help books and whatever, it's not that they're bad, it's that they're one-sided. And he's trying to say what you really need to do is to be practical and think through situations, and it's not negative to think, quote unquote, negatively. That's what my takeaway of this is. So let me see if there's anything else we should. Okay, let's just read one more paragraph, and then I've got a few activities for you to do. Mr. Edson, how are you?
I'm fine, and you?
Okay. Missed paragraph 9, where we talked about Mr. Chris Hadfield's book. You were here for the discussion, but let's just get a little bit more detail about what he means by the power of negative thinking. Can you read paragraph 10 for us, please?
Yeah, sure. Can you just increase the...
I cannot, unfortunately.
No?
It won't get any bigger than that.
Alright.
Yeah.
Let's try. Astronaut jobs are highly dangerous, as illustrated by the fact that they prepare for potential disaster by asking themselves, what is the next thing that could kill me? Just thinking about this possibility would paralyze most of us, which is why Hadfield is often asked whether astronauts need to be extraordinarily brave. It is not like astronauts are braver than other people. We're just meticulously prepared, he told National Public Radio. We dissect what it is that is going to scare us and what it is that is a threat to us, and then we practice over and over again so that the natural rational fear is neutralized.
Okay, good. By the way, just be careful on the word threat. Threat. Right.
Threat.
Not treat, but threat.
Threat.
Okay, good. What is a threat? Just so I know that you know. What is a threat?
Threat when you I don't know. I don't know how can explain the meaning, but it's when somebody makes something wrong for you and you threaten him, and you cannot
threaten to do harm.
Yes, just to do harm.
Threat is something that could cause you harm. In other words, a threat is something that can cause you harm. Okay, so now we get an idea in paragraph 10 what he means by thinking through situations. Asking yourself, what's the next thing that could kill you? It's a good plan. Maybe there's one more thing we should take a look at. I want you to take a look at paragraph 12, last paragraph. Giancarlo, can you do 12 for us on the very top?
Yes. 12. Learning is a major theme, both in the book and in Hadfield's life. Not only did he become fluent in Russian for his job at NASA's Director of Operations in Star City, Hadfield and his wife, Helene, took the learning experience one step further. Instead of moving into one of the American townhouses that NASA built there, we decided to move into a Russian apartment house, figuring that it would improve our chances of really getting to know the country and the people, he writes.
Okay. We could read more about that if you like, but I think those are the two major things that I saw. First, the emphasis on learning, and learning throughout your career. So I think that's not to be underestimated, and I think that's one of his points. And earlier in paragraph 10, something else, what Edson was reading. We dissect what it is that's going to scare us and what it is that is a threat to us, and then we practice over and over again. In effect, what the guy is saying is something that researchers have talked about a lot more in the last, I don't know, 5-10 years. It's a major topic. It's called, if people who are very successful do exactly what he's saying. In fact, there's a name for it. It's called deliberate practice. Deliberate practice. This is a quasi-scientific term that means you systematically figure out what you don't know, learn it, practice it on your own, independently, and then you move ahead of the competition. So that's what he's describing. That's why I thought it was very interesting. And this is something that he does just intuitively, right? Maybe he read about it, but I don't think so, because it's kind of a recent area of research. Anyway, they coined that phrase, deliberate practice. And the second, just learning in general, having an open mindset to learn. Okay, what I'd like you to do is if you remember in an earlier class, we talked about what we wanted to be as kids. What I'd like us to do is to think about a career plan and to talk about a career plan that would help us reach our childhood goals. So why don't we do one together, and along the way I'm going to give you some keywords and key phrases that'll be helpful for you. Let me see. So first of all, let me see if I can just get you started. Let's work on language for a second. What are some important milestones in people's careers? Does everyone know the word milestones? Does everyone know the word milestone?
Yeah.
What is a milestone? Give an example or give me a definition.
It's you could say it's a step.
It's a step.
Yeah.
Is it an important step?
Yes, it's a very important step in what you want to do.
Okay.
To achieve.
What would be a milestone in general? What's a milestone in someone's career? Can you think of an example?
Yes, I think the first milestone is probably be graduated.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's say I'm going to put stages, career stages here. Give me a second. And the first is graduating, right? If you don't graduate, it's unlikely that you're going to get the job that you want, in most cases. Unless you're a programmer and you're 12 years old and you've broken into the CIA database, then maybe you've proven yourself. I don't know. What are some other career stages we can identify, or milestones? If you're not sure, I'll give you a few keywords that might help. Think about the big things that happen in a career. Think about the whole career, from beginning to end, when you're 20 years old and when you're 60 years old, and when you're in between. What are some things that happen? Edson, Giancarlo, give us another. So graduation is one. Anything else come to mind?
Maybe the possibility or the options that we have in order to get a better job, or maybe, yeah, in general, because when you study a career or a major, it's important to know more about the the possibilities you'll get after finishing your career. Maybe an important stage is to see the panorama after studying.
Okay. So let's change two words there. Let's say, instead of possibilities, let's say opportunities. Because possibilities sounds very abstract to me. But we always talk about career opportunities. So that's a word you could definitely use. And instead of panorama, which is okay, maybe a better word would be to see the, how about if we say, I don't know, the big picture? We could say maybe the big picture. We could say, what else?
The options.
But it's okay. But it's I want to find some really idiomatic sounding vocabulary. So I want to be very specific. So I could think about careers. Look at your big picture. Look at your long-term goals or perspectives. Maybe say, oops, your long-term perspective, your long-term goals. To me, these sound a little bit more natural when you're talking about a career. So not possibilities, but opportunities. Not panorama, but big picture, long-term goals. And of course, you also have short-term goals. Just so you know. Okay, are there any other milestones you can think of in a career?
Could I say like post-graduating?
Could you say post-graduating?
Yes.
What do you mean by post-graduating?
After you finish your graduation, you're gonna get a higher level of graduation, like master or doctor or any other. I don't know.
Okay, so it's not post-graduating, it's higher degree.
Higher degree.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, absolutely. Now, in general, we can call this CDP. That's right. CPD, I'm sorry. CPD. Continuing Professional Development. Continuing Professional Development, CPD. Okay? So a higher degree could be that. Or getting a certificate could be part of that. There's different things you could do for your continuing professional development. Okay?
Is it valid for every career or just, I don't know, maybe
Any
someone?
career. Yeah,
any career.
Yeah. It just means that you don't finish school at 21 or 22 or 23 and you're done. That you continue adding to your CV. Okay. I'm going to give you a few sentences which have some keywords, and I want you to see if you could guess what the word is I'm thinking of, just to help you with your vocabulary. There's the first sentence in the chat window. Frederic, could you read that first one?
After a successful interview at Chemotech PLC, he was hired for the position.
Good. He was hired. That was the word I was thinking of. Good. I'll put the answer there. He was hired. Not employed, but hired. Okay? So there's our key word. Let me just think. Yeah, okay. This one is going to be several words. Giancarlo, take a look and tell me if you can guess what I'm trying to say.
After graduating from university, Mark decided to get as a junior engineer. Mark decided Mark decided
That's the idea. It's to be, but what's the word I'm looking for? You can't just be one. You have to work for someone. So he decided to do what? What's the action he took?
To study.
No. After he studied.
Mark decided to continue.
But he's going to work for someone. So what did he decide to do specifically? He's already graduated. What's he going to do next?
to work.
Mm-hmm. And in order to work, what do you do to get the job? What do you have to do to get the job first?
To apply.
To apply for a job is the answer I was looking for. So we have some keywords like to be hired, to apply for a job. I want you to take a look at this one, Edson. Take a look at this one. Can you go into the chat window, Edson?
Yes. After nearly 20 years of running his own business, Mark decided to retire early.
Very good. That was the word, to retire. Okay. I've got one that is going to be difficult for some of you, because you might not have seen this. It's a phrasal verb. Anna, are you back? Can you see what I wrote in the chat window?
Yes, I can. Sorry for that. Computer crashed.
No problem. So listen, we're just looking at a few important keywords for talking about a career plan. We have milestones like getting hired, applying for a job, retiring. Look at the last sentence and tell me what you think is the missing word.
Chemotech ran into Chemotech, right? Into financial difficulties during the economic crisis, and Mark was fired. Thank you, Giancarlo.
I didn't say that was the right answer,
Well, it was pretty obvious, I guess.
but it's not the right answer.
Really? Was
Really?
laid off.
Laid off. Exactly.
Ah.
He was laid off. What's the difference between fired and laid off?
Well, fired. Someone gets fired because he or
Or
she didn't do too good of a job, and laid off, I think, is when they just can't have enough money to support all their employees.
When they can't pay you, they lay you
Can't
off.
pay you, right?
Yeah, when they can't pay you. Okay. I think I've got three more little ones here that have good keywords for milestones. Let me give you the second last, the one before the second to last. Give me a second. Okay. Here's a good one. We're back to you, Frederic. Take a look.
He decided to become a contractor.
Well, contractor and consultant are similar, but yes, you're right. It's contractor, but there's a better word. There's a more everyday word. Contractor sounds very technical. What's an everyday, normal way to say that?
I don't know.
Class, help him out. He became what?
To become an entrepreneur and start his own business as consultant.
There is
Manager.
entrepreneur is the right idea, but that sounds very poetic. That you have a dream. This is a very practical way to say entrepreneur. Entrepreneur sounds like you're successful. He might not be successful. Does he have a boss? Yes or no? Does he have a boss in this sentence?
No.
No.
So, what is he? Who does he work for?
For himself.
So he decided to become
Businessman.
self-employed.
Oh.
Self-employed, okay.
Entrepreneur sounds very poetic. You know, like I have a dream. I'm going to build the first horseless carriage. My name is Henry Ford. It sounds very... So this is a very practical thing. It means you work for yourself. You're self-employed. I've got two more, but I think they're useful. So I'm still talking about milestones, different things that might come up in the context of a milestone. But they're also just good They're just good vocabulary words in general. Give me a second here. Anna, why don't you take this one? Sorry if I lost my place. I didn't know who was next.
Well, I could do it.
Go for it.
Mark felt he needed a change in his life, so he decided to hand in his something
Blank.
and start a new career.
What do we call that? Is he going to...
I know to... God. Slipped my mind.
Anyone?
And in his...
What do you hand in when you're no longer going to work at the job? You hand in your...
Destiny, future.
How do you hand in your destiny? Does anyone know? Going once, going twice? Normally in a job, you can't just leave. You have to advise people ahead of time. Notice. Hand in your notice. That is right. Hand in your notice means you're giving them advanced notice, like I want you to pay attention to this, advanced notice that you're going to leave the job. Okay, the very last one is pretty easy. But it's 2 words. So let's see if you can get the right collocation. I don't know where we are. Edson, I think it's your turn. I'm not sure. Go ahead, Edson. What do you think about this one?
Let's
2
see.
words, and you're looking for a collocation here.
Mark worked diligently for several years.
Wait. Diligently. Try again. Diligently. Uh-oh. Hello? Are you there?
Yes, I'm thinking.
Just repeat after me. Diligently.
Diligently.
That's good. Okay.
Eventually stop.
Stopped
No,
to the
no,
position?
no, sorry.
Doesn't work for me. If you look at the preposition, that might help you. You don't stop to a position. You go to a position, but you can't just go because you want to. Someone has to allow it. Time's up.
No idea.
Class?
Got promotion.
Promotion is a noun. We need a verb.
Start.
Start to a position? You can't start to anything.
Raise up.
No.
Come.
Go for.
Applies. It's on. It would sound strange. Like I don't know.
Anna, what was your first idea? Because you
got promotion.
got
promoted.
Got promoted. Right. We need a verb. He eventually got promoted. Right. He eventually got promoted as a verb.
Right.
If you say get promoted, you could also say to get a raise. At least in American English, you can say to get a raise. But you don't get a raise to anything. You just get a raise. There's no to. So, got promoted is the best answer. Okay. We're going to run out of time, but before we go, I want you to talk a little bit. Sorry about the noise in the background. Today I've got lots of noise in my house. I want you just to talk a little bit about your own career plan. For example, my job is to get a promotion. I don't think Verblink gives promotions, but if they do, that would be my job. If you're a teacher, you start off as usually a kind of apprentice, right? And then you get put into a. Normally, you have to do something when you're learning, so you have to do these sort of practice teaching hours. You're like an apprentice, or maybe you become a teaching assistant. And then as a teacher, you want to get a promotion, and eventually you'll become a manager or a director of studies, and you run the education for the school. And then maybe you can move up from there. Okay, what about in your various areas? Using some of these key words that we've just looked at, milestones, what are some things that you would want to do in your career, or things that you hope for you could do in your career? Okay? If you're unemployed, we already know the answer. It's maybe to get a job. But what do you think? Frederic, in your line of work, what kind of a career plan, what kind of milestones can you look forward to, or are you pursuing?
Actually I'm okay with my my actual position, you know. So I have
not your. It doesn't have to be your personal plans, but what can one do in your line of work?
You probably want to. I don't know. I working at home, you know, and it's always what I want to. I want to do because I can take care of my kids and working in the meantime. So I have
We've got a good keyword for that. It's to be.
It's to be. I'm self-employed.
Self-employed.
I'm not self-employed actually. I work at home for a company.
So you work remotely.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
We call this, in the old days we called this telecommuting.
Yeah, I was self-employed, but one of my customer hired me last July, so it's very, very good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
July.
In July, sorry.
Not Julie. Julie is a woman.
And so it's okay for me. Yeah, I have no plan for now.
Okay, no plan works for me. But you used a keyword for milestones, which is to be self-employed, or you could say to telecommute.
Okay.
Telecommuting is still a word that you hear today. Okay. Giancarlo, I know you're going to be taking a course, so you must have a career plan in mind, right? You're thinking ahead.
Yes, it is to be in charge of the export department in the company I am working for.
So using the keywords, what's the next stage? Using some of the keywords we learned today, what's the next stage?
Got to get promoted.
I think so, right? It's a promotion?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a promotion.
And what would you be in charge of?
In charge of the export department.
What does that mean?
Export department, well, I'm not sure if it is okay, but the export department is the department in charge of exporting different stuff to different countries. Export is to send stuff or goods to another country, for example, from Mexico to the United States or to Canada or to Australia.
I thought you were working in the hotel business.
Well, yeah. In that moment. Now I have another plans. But I have a family company right now,
right,
in which I am interested in well, not growing up, but interested in this company. And after that, maybe
how about moving into that area? Good phrasal verb.
Moving into this area. Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, in the last class of the series for this getting a promotion or career plans on Wednesday, I'm going to pair you up with someone. I'm going to give you some different careers, and you're going to, using the vocabulary from last week, using the keywords from today, you're going to take turns describing the type of career that it is, and your partner, or you, when it's your turn, are going to be giving a career plan. You're going to be talking about the possible stages of a career and how to achieve those stages. So it's going to be like a big simulation or role play that we'll take part in and try to use all the vocabulary we've done so far. So check that out on Wednesday. Tomorrow I'll be back from 12 to 2. And I changed my schedule, so I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm afraid to tell you the wrong information because I think I made some changes. Check my schedule. It's a better thing. So I don't give you the wrong information. Okay, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. And remember the power of negative thinking for the future. Bye
Yes.
for now.
Okay,
everyone.
bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.